Welcome. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, roll call.
President Reese, members of the board, please let the record show we have all 5 board members present tonight.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have our moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. For a moment of silence, if we could please keep the Glover family, not relation to Scott Glover, who we lost a student prior to school starting. If we can keep their family and friends in our thoughts, as well as the family of a Queen Creek football player who also lost their life last night. So the dad. So if we can keep those people, friends, family, and our staff in thought, that would be great. 4.0, the approval of the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All right. Any comments or questions on the agenda? I do want to clarify as a follow-up to our last meeting, Mr. Ratovich had requested an accelerated reader item to be placed on the agenda. And during the time after that meeting, Mr. Ratovich also asked for it to be withdrawn. So if people are wondering why that's not on our current agenda, that would be why. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. 5.0, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Thomason?
President Reese, members of the board, I am so happy to get this part of our board meeting started again with the awards and recognitions. So tonight, because school has just started, we do have some incredible employees that we would like to recognize. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Mr. Gary Holland.
Okay, so this seems to be, I'm destined to always have microphone issues because every time I get up here to talk, either the clicker doesn't work for my PowerPoint, my microphone doesn't work, so I'm doomed. So tonight, a couple things I'd like to talk about. So I'd like to recognize a wonderful group of people that have worked so very, very hard for this district. Timeless hours, and this summer was even more grueling for them because we were going through the process of a new curriculum adoption, so they were processing tens of thousands of books. They turned our warehouse into now a distribution center. They have increased our print shop and now made it an actual, providing much more quality products and services. They have printed our brochures for graduation, flyers for pamphlets for programs, etc. So, I mean, they've done an amazing job. I'm just trying to think of everything that they have done, because they have done a lot. So also, they implemented a new warehouse module. So now we're going to be tracking our inventory through that process, so all of the schools can be able to look online, and if they're looking for a particular item, they can go online and see if they're looking for a horseshoe-shaped desk or a table, you know, any of those types of items. That'll all be right there available to them, right at their hands. Let's see, what else? There was so many things. I could just kind of keep going on and on. So what I'd like to do now is just ask our warehouse group and our two teachers to come up here. So Juan Grano, would you please come up here? Thank you very much. Thank you. So Christina. Mike. Thank you, sir. Heather. Pamela Stone. And Heather Gribble. So again, we just want to thank you so very much for your tireless effort, long hours. You have done an amazing job for this district, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, so I have one more thing I'd like to talk. So at our last admin retreat, I started off my presentation, I was trying to change it up a little bit. And so I thought the finance person would tell a joke.
That is the joke.
So I tried a couple. Couple were good, one was a dud. And so tonight, whatever. So tonight, I wasn't planning to tell a joke in our board meeting. However, I had so many people keep asking me, what's my joke for tonight? So I guess I will tell a joke, and we'll see how it goes. So this is one that I really like. What is the adjective for poor? What is it for poor? What does it mean? When you have too much month at the end of your money. Boom, boom. Okay, guys, you're supposed to laugh. I thought this one was a cute one. So a good father is a dad who has photos in his wallet where his money used to be. Anyway, I'll work on that. Come back with a better script next time.
For upcoming events, I would like to remind the board and the public that on Thursday, August 10th, we do have a Business and Education Summit that will be at the Higley Center for Performing Arts, and you're all invited. We'll be watching an educational film and then having a discussion about that, and that's the Performing Arts Center from 7:50 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Hope to see you all there. And then that's followed up on Wednesday, August 23rd, for our next governing board meeting and work study, starting at 5:30 for the work study and 6:30 for the board meeting. Now, at this time, I would like to invite up our Coronado teacher trip group that went to China. So I'm going to ask Brian Griggs to come up and give us the presentation, and this is always an exciting part for us.
Thank you. It's always an exciting part of our school year, too. So President Reese, Governing Board, Dr. Thomason, Cabinet, and community, thank you for just letting us go on this trip. This is definitely something that is exciting for us, and it's one of the things that makes me proud to be a part of Higley. We went to Shijiazhuang, China, where we have a sister school, and at there we helped them with a summer camp that they do. And so I actually will not do the whole presentation. I want to bring up the teachers who helped teach alongside me to tell about some of the great experiences that they had, and just also to just say thank you. So coming up first, we've got Angela Torquato. So she's third grade, and she teaches the English side of our Mandarin Immersion program.
That's the first part of my speech, so. All right. Thank you for this opportunity, and the opportunity to accompany 4 other educators to China for 2 weeks was more than just an adventure to me. It was an insightful experience with benefits that just can't be measured. I am the 3rd grade English side of the Mandarin Immersion program at Coronado, and while this is my first year teaching in the program, Coronado has been my home for 3 years now, and I'm excited and delighted to see the school community flourish with this program in new and exciting ways. More than that, I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm going to be enriching this program with all the experiences and stories I've cultivated from my time teaching in China. My students think it's so amazing that their English teacher can greet them in Mandarin in the morning and say a few phrases and make sure that we're saying thank you appropriately in the Mandarin classroom as well as in the English classroom. They're fascinated with learning more about the culture and hearing stories from China, and they really like how I'm bringing back the letters that my Chinese students wrote to me and the pictures that they've drawn for me, and they're really impressed with the very neat Chinese handwriting in English. They think that's fantastic. But those 2 weeks were jam-packed, and I'm more than grateful to those 2 weeks than ever before as I continue to build up my students to be the best students they can be. And I didn't expect for this trip to impact me as much as it had, but I really should have known better. It was my first time traveling anywhere outside of the country, and you know what they say, go to China, because that's really easy when you don't know any other language at all, just go to China. But I was so excited. I got to be a teacher in another country, and then I got to take that experience and bring it back, and I get to be a teacher here as well, which is a lifelong dream that's just continually enriching and continually growing, which ties into one of my philosophies of life, be a lifelong learner. So I am a lifelong learner. I'm also energized and ready for the unique challenges and experiences I'm sure to have this year. So I want to say thank you, and thank you to Coronado, and thank you to the Higley Unified School District for making this trip and this opportunity possible for me. Thank you.
I would like to thank the governing board for supporting a program that allowed us teachers to go to China to teach and collaborate with the teachers and the staff there. This trip was both professionally and personally rewarding at a variety of levels. My first week of school, my students knew that I went to China because I talked about it. And they asked me what my favorite part of the trip was, and I couldn't answer them. Each day provided a new experience and was filled with memorable events, whether it was in or out of the classroom. Outside of the classroom, we were toured to amazing sites, including the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, and the various temples across the cities. And we saw and we learned so much through the tour guides. Part of our touring came from the parents and students. They showed us China through their eyes. We visited local museums, learned how to drink and serve tea at authentic tea houses, enjoyed lengthy dinners, and experienced wonderful food and Chinese traditions and cultures. We even danced at the park with the local people. The hospitality of the students and parents were overwhelming. We made friends, and we were invited back to China. And I know they meant it. We reciprocated the invitation for any time they were back here. They came to visit here. Personally, where do I begin? I went to China to share our educational teaching and practices. We not only collaborated with the staff and teachers from China, but we had the privilege to work with other professionals at various levels from all over the country, including Ohio, Iowa, and places outside the United States. There were teachers from Canada, Denmark, and Costa Rica. We made connections and even friends. Professionally, we are exploring possibilities to make educational visits with our friends from Canada. Although we were there to show them our educational techniques, I personally gained so much from them. The staff and students from China, our sister school in China, I learned through the teaching my Chinese students the history of customs and diversity of the United States, how much more alike we are than different. And when we compare the United States to China, and we realized how many similarities there are, the Chinese students beamed with delight. They were so proud. They loved learning about the United States. I learned how lucky our students are to have the opportunity to a free and public education through the 12th grade. I learned how to quickly adjust my lessons at an instant based on the students' needs, as some of them understood very little English. I learned creative ways to ensure that all students understood the lessons being taught. I learned deep reflection practices as a teacher. We never should stop reflecting, adjusting, and striving to be the best. I also learned that this program is bridging our countries together. I think global education is a start to so many more programs that will not just benefit the students of China, but our Higley students as well. Thank you again for this memorable experience. I hope to be part of this opportunity in the future. Thank you very much.
Yep, that's me. So I definitely want to say thank you. This was my second year going, and I was so blessed to be able to go again. I'm a kindergarten teacher in the Immersion program at Coronado. The first year, I taught 2nd and 3rd grade, which was my speed. This year, I taught 7th and 8th grade, totally new for me, but it was just amazing how much I learned in that 2 weeks, you know. I took something I had never done in a country where I had students whose English is a second language, and it really just shows you how grateful you are for our planning time, our prep time, everything here that, you know, and teaches me how to be on my feet, what's working, what's not, how to switch it up. But some other professional development things that I enjoy about this is, one, being in the Immersion program, especially with my co-teacher. You're a mentor a lot and a collaborator, and so being able to work with those Chinese teaching assistants and those second language students, there's just so much information that I could bring back to my classroom and really help me be a better teacher. Also, the collaborating with the teachers all around the world. Every day we got to talk to them, we got to travel them, and just talking about, you know, what works at their school, helping them solve problems, they help you solve problems in your own classroom, new ideas. It's just great to bring all that back. And then growing my worldview. I've been a lifelong learner and a world traveler, and it's really great to instill that into my kindergartners. Show them that there's a whole big world out there, and it's just waiting for them. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
I'm the technology guy and I just messed this up. Okay. Really? All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're here. Thanks. Okay. Thanks for inviting me to speak tonight. This is my second summer in a row I've been invited to teach in China, and just like the first, the experience was immeasurable. The hospitality at Szechuan Foreign Language School showed us was fantastic. I honestly could not get enough of the hotel breakfast. It was like nothing you've ever. It was like food for as far as you could see. It was incredible. I gotta send you. Teaching robotics to 5th and 6th grade students in China was like watching children open Christmas presents on Christmas morning. I wish I got to work with them for more than just 1 week. Despite only being with them for 5 days, they soaked up all the programming, mechanical engineering I taught them in just a short time. As wonderful as working with the students was, what was so unique about this trip is I got to do a robotics workshop with the Chinese teachers. I was invited to show them how to implement robotics into their curriculum. While doing this, I gained a greater understanding about the teaching culture, about their teaching culture, and at the same time developed a deeper appreciation for ours. Students don't get to take electives like robotics in China. I took great pride in what I was teaching in China, and since I've returned, I have an even greater pride in what I teach every day at Sassoon Middle School. Thank you for the opportunity to go over to China for a second year in a row. I appreciate the experience.
President Reese, members of the board, I got to tell a little story about Mr. Burke. When I visited China last year, he has become a local hero at the Szechuan Foreign Language School. As I was walking across campus, and let me tell you, this is a campus of 12,000 students. I have a little boy run up to me and says, "You know John Burke? You know John Burke?" I said, "Yes." He says, "He makes electricity out of lemons." So he is a local hero in China.
John Burke, the rock star. So yeah, and talking about 12,000 students, class sizes of 52 students, things like that. So a little bit different. What was great to have those conversations with teachers, not only from China, but also, as was mentioned previously, Denmark, Costa Rica, Iowa. Never in my educational career did I think I would be collaborating with teachers from all over the place. Again, like I said, I was so proud to be a part of Higley because they have a map on their campus of all the sister schools. And so you've got, all right, here's Denmark, here's Costa Rica, and there's Higley, Arizona right there, which is awesome. It's so exciting. And then also to be able to share, I think we do a really good job of depth of knowledge. It's one thing to memorize a lot of things, but how enriched is the curriculum? How deep is your understanding of those standards? And so to have those conversations with teachers, to help that with the students and the families there, and to run some trainings as well, was great, a great representation. I know we had students visit John Burke's classroom last year, and so we're looking for more ways to not only go over to Szechuan, but then to bring students and teachers over here. And so I think with the Higley strategic plan that we've got of the global learners, I think it's awesome. It's an exciting time to be a part of Higley. So thank you.
thank you for that presentation. It's exciting. It was exciting to hear last year and all the new different things this year too. So keep us informed in that communication. That's really neat. We'll go on to board comments. I had the opportunity to go to Gateway Point's Meet the Teacher Night. That's one of my elementary schools, as well as Santan. So made it to Santan and Gateway Point for Meet the Teacher. Lots of parents and families attending. It was nice. It didn't rain this year like it did last year. So, and then the curriculum night at Williamsfield. I got to attend the curriculum night at both Sossaman and Cooley last night. So that was really fun. Lots of interested parents and wanting to know information. So just a reminder, our elementary school curriculum nights are tomorrow. As board members, the schools that we have, if you can try and pop in and show your support for our schools and our teachers and our families. So any other board comments?
President Reese?
Mrs. Kaler?
Just a little bit of feedback from our rally was the morning of our last board meeting, and I just think it was phenomenal. I want to thank everybody that helped put that together. Darlene finding funds for this amazing comedian that I don't know how we're ever going to top that one because he was fantastic. So I just want to thank everybody for the rally and the kickoff. I thought it was really good. I heard a lot of great feedback. So I also went to Sossaman's back to school night and helped sell some PE uniforms. I didn't touch any money, just get that out there. But I can hold sizes and pick out for kids. And I know it was a great night. All the kids, the Stuco kids, come and give tours to all the new little Sevies, as we call them in our house, because I have 8th graders. And it was a great success over at Sossaman. I got to go to Cortina as well and meet the teacher night. That's like a big old family reunion. I'm sure it's the same at your schools because I love that students get to have the same teacher that their sibling had, and then the sibling comes and there's hugs for everybody, and it's really awesome. And then I also went to Higley's back to school, or it was the back to school where we got our schedules and parking permits, and that was new for everybody, and we got to see where our new parking spot was, and so there was a lot of good things going on over there at Higley. And what else? Dr. T and I went to the East Valley Consortium dinner the other night, and I thought it was good food. We only had salad. That's for Dr. Thomason's wife, if she watches. And we got a lot of great information from ASBA, which sometimes when I get these emails from them, I'm confused, or it's a lot of political mumbo jumbo, but Darby and Chris were there, and they just bottom shelved everything for us, which I thought was fabulous. So the next one's in October. I hope more of our board members can attend. It's a great night to mingle and get to know other board members and hear how they're doing. I just thought the night was great. And yeah, I think that's about all I did.
Any other comments? All right. We will go on to 6.0, request to speak to governing board. Do we have any requests, Mrs. Reach? No? Okay. We'll go on to 7.0 for consent agenda items. I move that we approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.14.
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns on any of the consent agenda items? There's a lot of them.
There was.
Mrs. Kaler.
I just had a comment that as I read through everything very carefully, that something near and dear to my heart is our, which one was it now? The 7.7, that even though some wording's changing, our services for our homeless foster children is not changing. And so I was when I saw that come on the agenda, and I just want to thank again Laura Walsh and Mr. Harris out there. They're doing a lot for our kiddos, and we can't do too much for them. So I'm glad that thing's changing.
That's for our students in transition. Any other comments or questions regarding any of the consent agenda items? Okay. Then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We have no items under old business, so we will go to our action and information items. We will start with 9.1, an information item on our strategic plan, goals 1 and 2.
Good evening, President Reese, members of the board. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Warren Schillingberg, who's going to lead us in the strategic plans for goals 1 and 2 this week. And then next board meeting, we will have goals 3 and 4.
Yes, President Reese, members of the board, this is the next phase of the strategic planning process. After you guys approved the original goals and objectives, the next phase was a group of 40 staff members, including administrators, teachers, and support staff, met for a full day on June 20th to work in 4 groups to go over these objectives and to write out their strategies and actions in order to accomplish these objectives. So today you're going to hear goals 1 and 2. The next board meeting you'll hear goals 3 and 4. So this is kind of the last step for the board to hear how they're going to be carried out before we will then work in our department to write SMART goals that we'll then share with the building so that the principal goals and teacher goals and school improvement goals will come from those. So I'd like to invite Dr. Kyriakos up first to talk about goal 1.
Good evening, President Reese, members of the board. The first goal was student success, maximize the academic and social emotional growth of students, of each student. I had 7 objectives under that. The first one was to provide each student a well-rounded educational experience. The committee that I work with came up with 2 action strategies for that. It is to develop a survey to collect data from students regarding the needs for academics and extracurricular activities and sports. And we also have some of that data in our data systems from community ed, is to compile that data and develop a survey so that we can collect more information on that. The principals will be doing most of that work. We also plan to put together a committee to decide on what needs to be on that survey. We do have a survey application called Qualtrics, and we are going to use that to collect the information, and the results will be information collected from students on survey data. Questions about that?
How are you going to do the surveys? Is it going to be something that is done in class? Is it going to be done through email? Is it?
We have to put together the committee, and we are going to have principal input on how to administer the survey. It is student survey primarily, so we haven't gotten there yet. So we haven't shared this with the principals yet in this detail. So this is the first meeting that we've had in this detail with the board, and some of the principals have heard parts of it, but not in this detail. So,
Thanks.
Ensure students, the second objective is to ensure students are placed in the appropriate level of rigor. We have developed some pathways for some of those things, but the committee decided that we have to communicate that to stakeholders and to develop and maintain criteria for appropriate classes. So this year we started that process, but to continue with that. The plan is to do that in 2 years, because we have a lot of objectives that we are going to be doing in the next year. So the target date for that is winter 2018. The principals and ed services will be working together on that. The data that we are going to use is to do placement tests and AZ merit data. So primarily achievement data is what we are going to use for that. The resources that we're going to update is the course guide, because that's the document that has most of this information, who gets into what courses. So we are going to update that. The other metrics that we are going to use is student grades and achievement test data. That was the second objective. Questions about that? All right. The third one is to set high standards. Set high standards for positive student behavior. All right. For student behavior, we decided that we need to implement the code of conduct consistently across all our campuses to provide training for assistant principals for consistent expectations across sites. So that was the primary need that the committee decided about student behavior. Another huge objective that came out of that was to hire elementary counselors to support positive student behavior. At this time, we do not have elementary counselors. Our counselors are primarily in secondary grades. So that was another objective that we need to work on. We are going to start that process in fall 2009. The first one, the code of conduct, and in fall 2019 is when we are going to work on the counselors. Principals and student services is going to be responsible for that goal. We will update the student code of conduct. We will provide a PD for assistant principals, and we will hire new elementary counselors. The primary data that we are going to look at for positive student behavior is discipline data, and another outcome would be that we'll have more elementary counselors to help students in the elementary grades. No questions? All right, thank you. The fourth objective is to enhance guidance and support for students for their next level of education. The committee had concerns about sixth grade students. We don't have a transition plan from sixth grade to seventh grade, and for eighth grade students to transition to ninth grade. Even though we have counselors, we do not have necessarily a transition plan for them that preps them for that transition. So we are planning to work on that. We also provide PD and to develop consistent guidelines and to provide more professional development for that purpose. So that is going to be in spring 2018, and Ed Services is going to be primarily responsible for that. We do have middle school and high school counselors, but we have to determine how to go about doing hiring more, having a plan to develop that transition. So the metric that we are going to use is improved satisfaction from students on student survey data and positive evaluations on the PD that we are going to provide. Right. The fifth objective is to provide exceptional opportunities for innovation and acceleration. So we do have some acceleration opportunities in our schools right now, so it is to maintain them, but we have to enhance them as well. New district, we are going to, the same committee that did the first objective, we are going to have that committee look at this as well to think about what innovation should look in Higley and to kind of have a plan for that. It is going to be an ongoing target. We are going to start that in fall 2018. Ed Services is primarily responsible for that. The current resources, we do have a gifted and talented program. We have a third grade acceleration that we are doing this year. We do have our immersion language programs, and we do have CTE programs that our students are currently doing. We have to, student enrollment and in accelerated courses is going to be a metric that we are going to measure this by. We are also going to look at committee results for innovations, and options are in place to be successful in Higley. All right. The sixth objective is to ensure curriculum is aligned across grades and buildings. Our plan is to provide curriculum, adopt curriculum for all subjects. This year we did an ELA adoption, last academic year. Well, this year we're implementing it for the first time. This year we're in the process of adopting a math curriculum. In fall 2019, we are doing science, and the year after social studies. Ed Services is primarily responsible for that goal. And we have it in the works that the curriculum is purchased. The outcome would be there's all these curriculum will be purchased, and there's PD provided to everybody at each site. Right? The last objective is to build an evidence-based culture using data and best practices. The plan is to develop quarterly data meetings so that we talk about how it drives instruction. Develop a plan for students to engage in self-reflection and for their growth. We are planning to start that this in spring 2018 and fall 2019 for ongoing monitoring. My department is going to be primarily responsible for that. We do have coaches who are working on that as well. Of course, site administrators are going to be the people who actually make it happen at the sites. We have assessment data, so that is going to be the current resources, but in order for all our teachers and principals to have this, we are going to plan to buy a data warehouse and training provided to how to use that data in the schools. So successful implementation would include data warehouse purchased, successful data meetings, and student completion of self-reflection and growth. Questions?
Madam President, just a comment. I know what this document looked like before you got it, and so I think this is a stronger document because so many people have had input, and I'm very pleased about that. I think it's a definite step in a good direction, so there's some good ideas in here, and thank you and the people who put in their time and effort to come up with this.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. President Reese.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kurikos. One point I'd like to emphasize to the board, because we have the goal of providing innovative opportunities, and our vision statement is to create an innovative environment. It's going to be important that this committee that helps us define that will bring that back to the board for you also to have input, because I think that's a really big part of the vision, mission, and this goal strand. So we want the board to feel comfortable that we're on the right direction, that you felt you wanted it to go. So we'll have a committee kind of work together to kind of pull that with what they feel innovation looks like and how we define it, and then we'll bring that to you before we actually carry that out. Next, I'd like to invite Mrs. Richards to share Goal 2.
Hello, President Reese and members of the board. I did get the best goal. You know I did. It's all about teaching and learning and creating that climate that sustains excellence. So that's all we are at Higley. So there are 4 objectives in this goal. The first one is to recruit, hire, and retain quality educators. I think that's probably the most important thing we do after ensuring that we have safe schools and our kids are well taken care of. So within that, my committee talked about a couple of action steps. One involves marketing. We're so great in getting the word out there about how great we are. So there's many ways that we talked about doing that. That included having maybe a Higley job fair exclusive to Higley. And the rumor on the street is Chandler already does that, and we're not in competition with them, are we? That's a suggestion that came up. We're already working on videos. A lot of schools have videos posted, and I get feedback that people watch that more than they read all the details. Websites, Twitter accounts, how many people are on Instagram already? And it's fun to watch what's being posted. We also hired a program specialist to work with the 4 specialty schools to help market, provide information, help teachers from China, for example, when they're looking for housing. There's multiple things that are going on with that. They can create brochures, postcards. All of these are possible things that we can do, some things we're already doing. So the metrics for the marketing plan would be the actual products the events that showcase the district and individual schools. All of our schools are unique and incredible, so we need to get the word out. And also the percentage of educators that stay with us. And so the data on that was impressive this year, and it's fun to track that, and it should continue to improve. The second action step or strategy our team talked about was improving the selection and hiring practices. We want the most highly qualified teachers in our schools. And when you get the right teacher in there, everything works. And you guys know that for sure. So one thing our committee talked about a lot was a screening tool. So sometimes districts will use a screening tool before they actually have face-to-face interviews with principals. Some of those are online. You can apply. While you're applying, you're actually completing a screening interview tool. Other districts train certain individuals, all principals, APs, on a screening tool, and you score those applicants. So in my life, I've gone through stacks like this of interviews to find the right first grade teacher, because it's that important. But if we become more systematic about what are we looking for and support each other, then maybe we end up with people sooner rather than later. And we get them before, sorry, Scott, Gilbert gets them, right? All right, so metrics for that would be reflected through our teacher evaluation scores. We want effective scores on all those instruments, a commitment from staff to return, our achievement data, that's so important. We want our kids very competitive and ready to go into the workforce, and the actual tool that is created or purchased. So do y'all have questions about objective 1? Okay. I know, I shouldn't have looked over there.
So, thank you, I'm sorry. Would this screening tool be applied to every applicant or people in the final phases of interviewing?
Every applicant. And
Okay.
so, I mean, several of us have worked in districts where we used something like that, and it was very effective. The district I worked in, it was like a 20-minute short screening tool we used with every applicant, and it took a lot of time, but I think it was interesting because sometimes you miss people on paper, for example, or you miss things because you don't have any criteria except what's on their application or letters of recommendation.
So is the other kind of goal for that to not have this stack, to kind of help it be this
Yeah.
stack and manage your time a little better too? Okay, got it.
I mean, I'm happy to do all of that, but
No, it's too much.
and then you got your whole team there too, so you're
Okay.
trying to be more efficient and effective.
Got it.
Mr. Richards, at the college level right now, the conversation is taking place with college students as far as what the future is in reference to recruiting students. What's taking place is the elimination of resumes. And I guess my question to you, as in the business world with Unilever and your major corporations, they are not even looking at resumes anymore. And if that side of the business world, as the education side, recruitment of teachers, looking at where business is going to recruiting the best, and what they do is they don't look at the resumes. A robot scans your LinkedIn accounts. They scan things out there and they're looking for keywords, and then the robot will say, there's a job opened in this particular company. The robot sends questions, they respond, and then the robot will send them interview questions for behavior questions, and then the human comes in at that point, which means these companies like this because they're getting the best of the best from not only a national but an international level. So it has opened the door up, and I was just curious, as we're looking at this stack, if that's where the future is. The future in the business world is totally different, and I was wondering if let's take a look at where the future is in recruitment of teachers. you know, and see if we can be a little.
Our connection.
Okay, I'll share the articles with you. It was just in New York Times 2 weeks ago with Unilever and some of the major corporations, what they're doing, and some of the students I've talked with have gone through this process with the robots and things like that. So I'll be more than happy to share that with you to see if there's some other schools and you know, maybe that's who knows. I mean, we're looking at things from our world, and the world is changing before us, and that's something to be really
Mr. Witovich, that's really interesting. I might be the only HR person or one of many of the HR people, but I hate resumes. I hate them. And when I hardly really look at them. I look at them for just some basic information, but I mean, I dig into behavior, past behavior, you know, are they going to fit into a culture? Is this the right manager for them? Like a whole bunch of other slew of things and non-teachable things, you know.
Yeah, there's some emotional intelligence you're looking for, and how you're actually able to identify.
You could
that.
hire the best teacher, but if he or she is a total jerk and ticks everybody off at the school or ticks off parents, they're not going to be that great of a teacher.
It doesn't work, does
right,
it?
exactly. So anyway, that's really a good point.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay, we'll move on to objective 2. Providing the necessary resources and training to support teaching and learning. So it's very important that as a district we provide the appropriate professional development to support not only new teachers but our existing teachers. So this year, you guys know we're in full swing with HMH, our new literacy adoption. We've gone through some new teacher orientation professional development, and we're already looking at that about how can we tweak that and be more progressive and interactive. We're also talking about using a screencast and digital platforms for some of this professional development, because I don't really like for people to read a PowerPoint to me. Do you? It's just not the way we should learn. So Ed Services and the instructional coaches and the principals, all of us will be working on that. Metrics would be what's happening in the classroom. What type of instruction are we seeing? Are we differentiating? What about student growth and achievement data? And really this year I'm excited because we do have this plan, and the district's going to have SMART goals, and they're going to go down to the campus level, school level, teacher level. So everything's aligned, which is super exciting. And really, we just want to meet the needs of individual teachers, because my needs might be different than Greg's, you know? But all of us are here to improve and grow. All right. The second action step is to provide comprehensive training for our leaders. And so we've kind of had some fun already with that. I think Dr. Schillingberg wants to bring his movement PD to a school board meeting. Did you guys hear about that? So he did some things with all the leaders in the district and played music, and people had to move as teams and provide certain motions and movements. So some people were a little uncomfortable, but it got better. So that's one thing we've done. We're building teams. We're focusing on working together to create a culture of openness and sharing. Yesterday, we focused on the fact that success builds success. He actually did a little exercise with us about, you know what, I can walk around and tell you you're doing great, but success really builds confidence. The other builds self-esteem. So he's trying to model things that leaders take back and do with their teachers, and we're going to continue that. So when you're a true professional learning community like that, what you do here trickles all the way down, ultimately to your children. Let's see. We're going to work really hard with the principals to provide effective feedback. So when you're in the improvement process, which we continually are, I don't want you to tell me I'm doing a good job all the time. I want you to tell me how I can improve and help kids. So we're going to work as Ed Services to make sure that we're supporting principals, and our principals are the best. So they support us and each other. All right, so metrics for that will be retention. Well, it's kind of fun this year because you kept most of your principals. So I think it's an exciting time, and teachers love that. We kept a lot of teachers, probably one of the highest percentages ever since I've been here, correct? So that's positive. We want increased student enrollment, which we have, and then our achievement data to continue to improve. It will also be measured by the yearly climate survey. All right. Objective 2, questions? No? All right, objective 3. We want to make sure staff feel valued and supported. So it's so important that we have a school culture where there's shared leadership and decision making. We want, tonight was a really good example where all those people in the warehouse were recognized. And I can't even tell you what an incredible group of people they are. It doesn't matter what day, they're all smiling, they're all ready to help you. And for you guys to take time to recognize them, that's a big deal. The other thing that I think we're currently doing that's great is the compliment button on the district website. When teachers get a compliment on that website and they get a call from one of these guys, they're on cloud 9. So we should continue things like that. I think site celebrations are important. Every school I talk to does that in different ways. And I think Chaparral has, I always say it wrong, shark bites. It's not that. Sharks, highlights, I don't know, Bridges does. Yeah, I made that up. And Christine, forgive me for messing it up. I'll find out what it is. But every site recognizes employees and other staff members, and it makes you want to go to work every day. Every site will develop a plan and ensure that's happening. And yearly climate surveys reflect that very well. All right. We also,
Like in reference to what you're talking about, it's so much needed, that positive culture. And as I have said time and time again, working at the college level, this millennium generation that's coming into our school as new teachers, it's very important for them to be part of the decision-making process. And I see that in your goals, that they need to be included in becoming part of the decision-making process. So I appreciate that's in here, and it's that positive culture that they need. Not so much the money, it's creating a positive culture in the school. So I'm glad we're addressing that here this evening. So
yeah,
thank you.
People don't, you want to think people come to work for the money. Well, we do because we have to, but that's not what makes us stay. So, and you're exactly right. All right.
People leave their manager.
What?
People leave managers.
Yes, they do. And we want to be strong instructional leaders that value people. So we want to also implement a professional development program for administrators to ensure that positive health of the organization. So we'd like to, as Ed Services, call it creating a culture of accountability with respect. So that respect, you know, Dr. Schillingberg or Dr. Thomason can hold me accountable, which I want him to, even when I mess up, but they'll be respectful, and I can handle that. So that respect part is very important, and we want to work with principals on that. I told you we have the best principals, but we're all learning together. So that would be reflected in a yearly climate survey and professional development evaluations. The next action step
Mrs.
is to
Richards,
provide.
I'm sorry. What is this looking like? Is this hiring somebody from the outside to conduct leadership training? What is this?
When we brainstormed this, it looked more like our Ed Services Department working on this with the principals, not hiring from the outside. Okay, so Dr. Anju is what I'm going to call her. I'll mess her name up. And Dr. Malloryne, for example, went to some training, and they've brought some things back we're implementing. I think it's a process, and we're outlining what exactly it's going to look like. So those are really good questions, because talking about teaching about culture, that's your question.
Well, I know it's hard to change a culture without some neutral help, right? I mean, because we all know only what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And it's hard to train ourselves and then have to say, oh, well, Sherry, you're the biggest culprit of this, you know? I mean, and be diplomatic, but if you have someone neutral and get everyone all on the same page, I guess, at least starting from the top, it's easier to, it takes transformation a little bit more quicker. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when you're doing...
So you're wanting to come
I'm not saying I'm wanting to. What I'm saying is you're going to have challenges with that, and not everyone's going to be on board. It's not going to be very effective when you're doing it with your peers, when peers are trying to share how things should change or how they should be. I'm not saying it's not going to work entirely. I'm just saying be prepared for challenges, because there will be.
Yeah, I think our approach is more of working together to work through real things that happen on our campuses, because, I mean, all of these principals have probably lived through very positive environments as well as challenging ones. And for example, elementary principals, we determined that part of our meetings every month will be to highlight something positive going on our campus. That can be anything, but then also bring challenges we're facing.
So kind of best practices. Got it.
And so, I mean, that takes courage for me to come in and say, I don't know, I didn't know what to do with this. What would you do with this? So it really is creating a culture of trust and learning from each other. And if we don't have the answers, then maybe we should go research.
You know, I do agree with what Mrs. Ford is saying in reference to if we continually just stick with the family. It is important to do once in a while to get some outside resources in to say, look, family, we need to maybe perhaps look at something a little different than we're doing. So, I mean, I hope we're a little open to just not having this meetings.
I am definitely open to that, and that's what this whole process is. And that's why you guys are part of this. Everybody that's involved is part of this. So that's a well-respected thought, because I think sometimes, just like what you said about the business world, it's a different lens to look at it, and maybe we get creative and implement parts of it if we can't implement all of it. So we'll make a note of that.
Yeah, I just interject that that's what we'll hopefully gain from the climate surveys. So when we see that there's issues there that we feel like an outside person is going to be better to address that to help support it, that's when we'd really reach out. But really trying to just build that culture of support among the team.
President,
I was going to say, and I think that from our district perspective, that leading by example, which it sounds like you're all doing, you're taking positive things that you know, teaching, and you're taking that and teaching, and it's trickling down and leading by example, and then being held accountable to that example. So I think that's really important. So you're mean what you say and say what you mean.
Yeah.
And consistently. And I think that's important. It doesn't matter which campus you're on, everyone's getting the same message. Everyone is seeing the same behavior and what's being modeled, and that's kind of from all angles. So I think that's really important that we're implementing that piece, and we're really going to be held accountable for our administration to lead by example. So I like
President
that
Reese?
you included that.
Yeah, and part of that accountability is hiring for those things, rewarding those things, having annual review process that involves measuring those types of behaviors that you want to see. It's got to be incorporated all the way through, or it's just words. Yeah.
I just wanted to interject here a little bit that I love the fact that you were talking about a principal coming in and sharing the best and the worst, and that is so important for our principals to be able to be so vulnerable and transparent, and I think that's going to help cultivate a culture then of teachers being able to say the good and the bad openly and not feel like, you know, there's something wrong with them, or there's, I just love that idea, and I hope that we send that message out loud and clear to just be transparent, because that brings so much honesty to the whole situation, and I want that for our district.
I mean,
It is
it's
hard.
hard out there some days, and you know, your tendency is to say, I got it all together, and I really don't. And that should be okay, because I should pick up the phone and call and say, hey, you know, and I should feel comfortable, and we do that, but I think we're going to get better at it.
Well, and I think you hit on something, and that's that environment of trust, that you can do that and know that who you're calling and saying, hey, I don't know what to do, that they're not going to call and be like, hey, guess what? Sherry didn't know what to do. So, I mean, I think that's really important, that camaraderie and that trust comes so that you guys can do that. So.
Okay, great. All right. No, it's good. It's a good conversation. That's what we want. So we want to provide additional training and focus on our evaluation system to ensure more effective, supportive, and relevant feedback. So we currently use the STRONG evaluation system for teachers, and then the district has been working on an evaluation tool for the classified staff members. So we want to continue with professional development, and this is one of the things I keep hearing from principals specifically is, you know, how do I become an expert coach so that I help people improve their practice? And it's not just great job, you know, your kids look like they're engaged, but, you know, Dr. Schillingberg, I'm sorry I keep using you as an example, but he came and did some observations with us last year. And it was good to have somebody else's input, like, did you notice this? Did you notice that? It was all very positive, but we're all learning how to give that critical feedback in a climate of trust that really improves what's happening for our kids in our classrooms. So we want to keep working on that. The metrics, site-based PD plans based on data from our evaluations and the results to support the needs of all staff members. So we need to not only support our teachers, but our classified staff too. And sometimes you might go several months and not provide that relevant feedback to them. And I'll tell you what, that front office staff in a school, if that's not working well, you might as well forget it. So, and that goes down to everybody.
Sure.
My plant managers or cafeteria workers, everybody.
Your front office people are the first contact that the community has. It's the look of the building, the way it's maintained before they even walk in the door, and the first contact person, that secretary who greets them, that's so important, and it's so important to keep them part of this whole process. So thank you for having that in there. So.
Oh, they're amazing. All right, we also want to research additional evaluation systems and tools to see if what we're using is actually meeting our needs. So there are different tools out there. Our committee wanted to do some research and see if we may want to change what we're using. So there's multiple tools out there. Questions on objective 3? Okay, objective 4, we want to make sure there are opportunities for employees to participate in decisions that impact their work. So you can tell there's a pattern or a theme going on here about a culture. And we want a culture of collaboration. The district and the school sites will work with staff to ensure their voices are part of the decisions that impact their classrooms and their students. What we had trouble with was we kept going really specific, so we're trying to keep it big so that individual sites can kind of determine what this looks like for them, but some examples were input on schedules, professional development needs, and those fun campus initiatives like PBIS or Gateways doing a Be Kind project, the Leader in Me, all those things that are kind of school specific. Those Mandarin celebrations, talked about potlucks, ping pong tournaments, you name it. So I think everything ties together nicely in the school. So I told you it was the best one. And this would be measured through a yearly climate survey. So you have other questions on that one? They seem really big and broad, but they are on purpose. So.
Yeah, I think the fourth one needs a little more meat.
Okay.
Because I don't think a ping pong tournament is going to help people feel part of the decision making. You know what I mean? I think we all say we want that. Sounds really great, right? But our behaviors through the year get us the opposite result. So I think we really kind of need to look at that with open eyes and be really honest about what our behaviors do to get us where we are right now, which is everyone doesn't feel part of things, which is why this is a goal, I know, but I think we need to not be afraid to look at the ugly part of that and have no one be penalized for coming forward with their concerns either. Because the yearly survey, I mean, I don't know how honest that always can be.
Okay,
It's a survey.
so perhaps sites will look at things where they're getting feedback periodically.
Well, I
through the
think
year,
over
too.
time, building that culture of trust, you're going to get more honest feedback too. People won't be afraid to speak up, but it takes time.
I completely agree with what Mrs. Ford's saying at this time. It's much needed is building that trust in each one of these schools for them to do. And even as something as like ping pong, it's team building things together. So whatever you can do, be creative, but we need to build this trust in our schools to move forward with. So
Totally agree.
yes.
So it'll be fun to come back and share with you what the schools have decided, you know, what avenue have the schools decided to take with this, so.
And I just interject here to the board that this really is a living, breathing document. So as we develop those specific goals for the schools, we will find other areas that need to be addressed, and it will keep moving and growing. And because we still have 4 years for this to carry itself through, so you really are just looking at kind of the first couple.
You know, it's going to be interesting when you move forward when the principals start encouraging them to start doing teamwork and ping pong or whatever. I think you're going to see they're going to hold back a little bit. They're going to be a little nervous because this hasn't been done before as far as bringing you into the decision-making process. We're a team. That hasn't happened before here, and I think it's going to be
Not consistently, anyway.
Yes. So this is going to be what you're going to see. I know at first some hesitation. So until that trust, this is really a great opportunity for our district to move forward here.
Well, and it's super important that you're letting the sites decide. That's great, but I hope we're also bridging the gap with the district office, and that the district personnel will also be part of building that trust as well, because we don't want to forget that gap. Yeah.
It needs to be consistent all the way down. Thank you.
Awesome work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all the work you guys did.
Thank you.
When we worked on this, I know our heads were spinning, and we only had to come up with the one little piece on the left. Everything else to the right is you guys. So this has been, I'm so excited to be getting our strategic plan going. We've wanted this for a long time. We've needed this for a long time. And I just want to thank everyone participating in this, because this is in addition to what you do every day, and it takes time. But I think that everyone in our district would agree we've needed it. We need some consistency, and this will help provide it. We need some accountability. This will help provide it. And it's a district-wide thing, so it's not just at one place. It's not just one department. So thank you and everyone working on these committees, because I know it's time-consuming. Like I said, I know our heads were spinning when we were just trying to come up with an area and not even having to drill it down. And I'm sure, like you said, there's so many things that you want to get so specific on, and we're just not there yet. We can't get that specific, but it's just that habit we want to go to. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you, because it is a lot of work. A lot of people put a lot of time into this, but it's an exciting process. And thank you, Mrs. Richards, for sharing that goal too. So at the next board meeting, Dr. Mallerwine will share goal 3, which deals with communications, and Mr. Holland will share goal 4, which deals with finance. So he will have to come up with one more joke.
I think he should do that at every meeting, just to open, you know.
I don't know, I might have to come early and mess with the clicker or the microphone or something, just to do. Or maybe I don't, because it just happens. All right, thank you. We will move on to 9.2, which is our first read for amendment of policy GDQD, which is the discipline, suspension, and dismissal of support staff members.
Second.
I guess I move. That's fine. Ms. Good did go over this with us in our work study, as we had several policies on our consent agenda. Anyone have any questions or comments regarding this policy? We talked about it briefly in work study. All right, then I'm going to amend my motion and ask that we waive the first read, or waive the second read, and I move that we approve the amendment of policy GDQD, the discipline, suspension, and dismissal of support staff members.
Second.
Any questions or concerns with waiving that second read going on? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries 5-0. We did talk about calendar committee survey that will be coming before the board sometime this month. I believe is it our August 23rd is the intention to bring that?
President Reese, members of the board, yes, that is correct. We'll be bringing a work study forward on the 23rd with a board agenda item.
Okay. And that's the feedback from the committee, the suggestions. Okay.
Does that include the results then from the survey? And how are we sending the surveys out? Are we doing it just on our e-alerts? Are we doing it through the classroom? Both?
Dr. Mallerwine, you want to come up and answer some of the survey questions?
Good evening, President Reese, members of the board. The survey, Dr. Kirkos and I are wrapping it up basically after the board meeting, right? So the plan is either to get it out on Friday at the end of the work or Monday first thing. We're going to leave it open for 10 days. To answer specifically your question, it's going to be sent out to the community from every school's constant contact, and it's going to be sent via email is the plan for all staff. And what we're hoping to do is differentiate the data so you can see kind of what each stakeholder group is what their choice would be. And we have 3 calendars. We have one that's kind of just like the calendar is now. We have one that started us as late as possible in the year with regards to merit, and then we have a hybrid in the middle. So we have one that we think, from some of the feedback I got from parents, we have one that kind of everybody was asking, and I can go into more details on how those different options came to be via the committee at our work study.
Okay, so we'll be getting that information then.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for getting it out. I know your plan was second week of school and you're living by it. And I just want to encourage like everybody to make sure that our community is signed up for all these e-alerts and things. When I was at Higley High, they kept announcing it over and over. Sign up, because it's just, there's so many parents who go, I didn't know there was curriculum night. Well, are you not on email? So, yeah, so anyhow, I'm trying to get the word out too, so people.
Thank you. Yeah, we got the committee members all together on the 3rd day of school. It was, they were very willing to do that. It was nice to have them all together, and then we're going to bring them together again to look at the data, and then we'll bring their recommendation, but we'll also bring the data to you guys.
Perfect, thank you. And then our overview of services provided by guidance counselors. Do we have any other future agenda items that we?
Madam President, yeah, well, I just, we talked a little bit about, goal 1 and goal 2, and there's a lot of professional development that is mentioned in there. So I really think it would be helpful if we had an overview and sort of reviewed, what we provide as a district for professional development, how we fund it, so that we could also look forward to these, to supporting these other goals as well.
So basically what we currently do and how it's paid for and what it costs. Okay, that's a good idea.
And we will add that to our future agenda items so we can get that as either a work study or at least an information item during one of our board meetings. Mrs. Kaler?
President Reese. Just wanting to find out, I know we talked early on about moving our meetings to a work study once a month and a board meeting once a month. And is that something that we have to come before the board for a vote? Is that going to be?
It's scheduled for discussion on our next board meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Good timing.
Good.
So, yes, it will be on our August 23rd board meeting as an information item so we can discuss the direction we want to go.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I have a
Yes.
lot tonight. At our consortium dinner the other night, it was interesting to hear the grading system that's coming out shortly. And it's funny that they don't even really know how the grading system is going to be until this committee meets up in, is it Prescott they're meeting?
Yes, that is correct.
And I was just really interested in seeing how that all works because I had not been the newbie board member. So I think we need to be just aware when this comes out and be prepared and proactive. We get the data first, so I just want to be aware that that's coming and for us to all the way.
President Reese, members of the board, we will be having a board meeting presentation on that as soon as we're able to publicly share those results, and that'll be put together by the curriculum department in regards to how the district's doing compared to our sister schools within the valley and the state, and then how our labels were obtained. And so we'll be bringing that presentation to the board too.
Thank you. I was going to say, there's been a lot of discussion recently within our community and our schools, drug abuse, suicides, teenage concerns, issues, and everything. Dr. Thomason and Mrs. Corey are working on getting presentations, getting resources, getting information that will come out to our community so that they can be, so they can come and we can help provide some education to students and to our community and our parents. And Dr. Thomason, if you want to.
President Reese, members of the board, what we would like to do is we will be putting together a set of programs, not just for the Higley Unified School District, but for our entire Higley community. And those programs would include topics of more difficult natures, maybe some of the suicide, some of the drug abuse, some of the stress and test anxiety that students go through, some of the date rape issues that are more uncomfortable that we will have in a setting for the community after school hours, not during school hours, to be presented to our entire community. That would include some of our sister schools and maybe some of the other neighborhoods within surrounding area.
When you make that list out, could you include internet safety too, please?
Thank you. We would definitely put that in there.
Cyberbullying and just what our kids face.
The Attorney General came out with a letter, and it's all on there. It's distracted driving even, and social media etiquette and sex. I mean, it's very detailed for some of the
Perception you
services
put out there, too.
that they provide for us. So I think it's awesome and very timely, very timely.
Well, and it wasn't too long ago, Governor Ducey declared an emergency based on the opioid use, and it's getting out of control. And so I think as a district, and not necessarily even as a district, as a community, that something, we feel something needs to be available. So, I'm sorry, and you had, okay. Oh, sorry. Any other future agenda items? No. All right. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Have a good night.